Now the commercial harvesting of the Matsutake mushroom is very popular. Annually it brings in $30 to $40 billion. So what is up with this mushroom? Why is it so expensive? Why are commercial harvesters going after this? And the majority of these mushrooms are all sent to Japan. So what's the big deal? Dead. Oh wow, look. On the hunt for some Matsutake. If you've never heard of that mushroom before, it's a good one. That's dumb. It's a very popular mushroom in Japan. The species we have here is Tricholoma murrellianum. And then over in Japan, it's Tricholoma matsutake. Matsutake, so matsu means pine and take means mushroom. So often this is also called the pine mushroom. But you just have to be cautious. That is a common name, just like American matsutake or white matsutake is a common name. So pine mushroom is also a common name. And there is another mushroom that sometimes goes by pine mushroom that is in the Lactarius genus. Just so you know. Anyways, on the hunt for matsutake, pine mushrooms, and there we go. Just from where we came out of the car to here, this is not as good. With the matsutake, there's actually very specific trees and plants that you can look for in order to find it. But there's also this thing with mushroom hunting that's kind of like intuitive mushroom hunting. I don't know what it is, but like sometimes a mushroom hunter, you just know, you have a feeling you need to go somewhere else. And so a combination of those two things are in today's hunt.
Ooh.
What is that? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Oh, some kind of foliota. Those look amazing. I love finding mushrooms like this on trees because you almost don't expect it, right? Now in Japan, the Matsutake is known as the king of mushrooms, and it's been documented that it has been picked over there for over 13 centuries, and there's even historical documents referencing that samurai used to pick this mushroom. So Matsutake mushrooms, one reason that they're expensive is because they can't be cultivated. There were huge efforts in the 70s and early 80s to try and figure out how can we cultivate these mushrooms and how can we, not have to just harvest them from the wild. But those efforts pretty much failed. They learned a lot, but they also learned that this is not something that is very practical. I know it's not, but it's like, I have to check. Yeah. Oh, smell.
That's so sweet.
Isn't it amazing? It smells totally like those Costco brand poppy seed muffins.
Yeah, that's interesting. They're good. I mean, it smells so good.
Yeah, so I think so, yeah. Some people reference it as either like cherry or almond extract.
Almond extract, which is probably what you're smelling in the muffins.
Yeah.
Can I smell it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, cherry, like the cherry extract.
Yeah, totally. It was the one we actually, what? Oh my gosh, it's so great.
It is so great.
So this is a hygrophorous species, and which one specifically it is kind of hard to tell. I think again, the jury is still out on all the specifics that grow in this area. It's got a beautiful smell, as you can tell by the oohs and ahs that Zach and I are exuding. It's so great. The Matsutake as well has a very specific smell. So if I haven't said this enough already in my videos, smell your mushrooms, people, because you're going to be missing out on some pretty amazing things if you don't. Matsutake mushrooms are mycorrhizal. So mycorrhizal is actually a combination of myco, fungus, and rhizo, which means root, so fungus root. This kind of a relationship is between the mycelial network of the fungus in the roots of trees or plants and having kind of like a symbiotic relationship. Now, there are a variety of types of mycorrhizal relationships, but we're not going to get into all those details right now. But because these mushrooms are mycorrhizal, it means they're a challenge to cultivate. If something is saprobic, which means it eats wood or grows on some kind of decaying wood, then they are a lot easier to cultivate because you can create or recreate the environment in which they grow in. But to recreate that symbiotic relationship between the fungus and a tree root is darn near impossible. As we learn more and more about the way fungus relate in the environment, how they grow, how they break down things, receive nutrients, exchange nutrients, we're realizing that things are not so cut and dry. There are kind of three main categories as far as mushrooms and how they receive nutrition. They can be parasitic, which means they parasitize something. They can be saprobic, which means they are eating dead, decaying matter. And then they can be mycorrhizal, which is that kind of mutualistic relationship. But when environmental factors come into play, maybe there's a stressor that's happening with that mushroom or that fungus, they can start to shift a little bit of the way that they receive nutrients. So even though Matsutake are mycorrhizal, there have been studies that show that under certain conditions they can start to kind of filter in and blend and blur these lines of the way they actually receive nutrition. Just an interesting fact about them, and I'm sure that's true of many other mushrooms as well. When a mushroom is mycorrhizal, it means that you can figure out what kind of trees they like, what kind of trees they get nutrients from. Not you specifically going out and doing soil samples in the science, because that's a lot of work, but there are resources online, in books, those kinds of things. So Matsutake in my area likes Douglas fir, true fir, and ponderosa pine. Areas that have those trees are gonna up your chances of finding the Matsutake. In addition to looking for specific trees in order to locate the Matsutake mushroom, be on the lookout for Allotropa virgata. This is a Pacific Northwest plant, also known as the candy stick or the candy stripe. It is a beautiful plant. It has beautiful red and white stripes on it. It looks just like a candy cane growing out of the ground. Now the thing with this plant is it does not photosynthesize. Notice it has no green. So it does not have chlorophyll, it cannot produce its own food. It gets all its nutrients and carbohydrates from neighboring trees by way of the fungal network. So fungus bring this plant its nutrients, and there is a specific relationship between this plant and the Matsutake fungus. Now, this plant usually blooms in the summertime, so you're going to see it in these beautiful red and white colors in the summer. When you get around to the fall, it's going to be brown and kind of dingy looking and dry and crumbly. The thing is, even if you're in an area with this candy stick plant, yes, it guarantees that there's this connection going on, that there's this fungal network underneath with the Matsutake, but it doesn't always guarantee that the Matsutake are going to be there when you're there. So sometimes you have to return to a spot multiple times or in different years to see if it's fruiting. But this is a very incredibly specific indicator that the Matsutake is potentially nearby. So look for this plant. Oh yes, oh my gosh, that is a great shrub. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, this looks like it. Look, this is a shrub. This is actually a very revealing shrub. A lot of times you find it more like here. Sometimes it's more like this, and that's all you see. All you see is this. So you have to get looking closely and at funky details on the forest floor, like shrubs. It's short for mushroom bump. let's take a look. Oh yeah. Beautiful. All right, so with the Matsutake, usually what I do is I kind of do just like a rocking thing and it kind of comes out. There we go, just like that. Oh, it's so perfect. Oh, there we go, little baby next to it. And notice, look at like the sandy, ashy soil. I mean, you can see it at the base of the stem as well. There's that nutrient poor soil that it likes. You can see that it has this ring right here. So that's left over from the partial veil that used to cover the gills. Sometimes with the Matsutake, it's very kind of a thin flesh. So that ring may not always be really prominent on it, but you can feel it and it feels somewhat velvety, this area, and you'll notice it's like clean up above and then velvety down below. Notice on the cap it feels a little bit velvety as well, and it's not pure white, but it's got a little bit of brown on it too. So compared to the Japanese Matsutake, this is very, very white. Theirs are much more brown, both on the stem and on the cap. And of course, the smell is so good. And guess what? It's a sniff test, not sniff taste, like I accidentally said in an episode like 4 years ago. Oh my gosh. It's so incredible to think that this is just naturally occurring in a mushroom. You just don't think of fungus as smelling like a spice. Mushrooms you think really just dirty and earthy and musty, but this is like fresh and like fresh spices. Dirt spice, people, dirt spice. So often you will find them in groups. We found this with the little buddy here. But a lot of times you can find them in groups, but sometimes you can't see the other ones because they're hiding underneath. So you look for like the one shrump and then you start looking a little more. Sometimes I've noticed if I just press on the ground, you'll kind of feel them underneath the ground, especially if it's mossy. So you can harvest your mushroom like that. I have heard, and sometimes practice, I don't know if it's called the thumping method or what, but some people, when they harvest the ones that are fully unveiled, they do a little pat on the top of the mushroom just to dislodge any spores that may be just hanging on, get those spores to release into the ground and hopefully help with reproduction for future generations of this fungus. So when it comes to Matsutake mushrooms, I've mentioned the commercial side of Matsutake. So if you're interested in that, there's a grading system. So certain Matsutake have higher value and it depends on their maturity level. So this Matsutake here, its cap is fully open. There is no longer any part of the partial veil that is attached. So this would probably be like a 4 or D, depending on if you use A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's A or 1, it's going to be a little more like this. This is not in the best condition, so it's an example that I have to show you, but this mushroom's not in the best condition. It's a little squishy, so it means the bugs have gotten to it. But you can see, you can't see the gills at all in this. The partial veil is still completely intact. So when that partial veil is still completely intact and you have a nice kind of like a round button, it's maybe about 3 inches in diameter, that is your grade 1, your grade A Matsutake. That's gonna fetch the highest price. Now, the aroma may not be as strong in the grade 1 or A, but the flesh is going to be firmer. It's going to be easier to handle when you cook it, and you can make certain dishes with it easier, and so it gets a nice high price for that. This mushroom here, still absolutely delicious. Smells incredible. The flesh isn't as firm as those grade 1 or 2 Matsutake mushrooms. Plus, it being open like this, it has a different shape than it would be when it's all button form. Maybe if we find some more, I can show some examples of that. I have a few more things to teach you about Matsutake, and I want to find its deadly toxic lookalike. So hopefully we come across that as well, because I think it is important for you to know that. And honestly, when it comes to edible mushrooms, it's more important to learn the lookalike species than anything else. Learn the lookalike species and get to know your edible species all at the same time. It's a package deal. So let's go over all the specifics to identify a matsutake. First of all, they are white mushrooms. You can see they have a little bit of brown to them, but primarily white. They have gills. They have a partial veil, which sometimes will leave behind a little skirt. That skirt, however, can be very sticky and disappear easily. They produce white spores. They have a very firm stem. Below the skirt line, there is kind of a brownish streak area, while above the skirt line, it is very clean and white. The flesh, if you were to peel it apart, does kind of peel a little bit like string cheese and is a bit just stringy in general. Now we want to contrast this to the Amanita species. Now the two Amanita that you will come across in the Pacific Northwest that look like this matsutake are Amanita smithiana and sylvicola. Again, these mushrooms are white. They also have gills. They also have a partial veil, which can be sticky and disappear really easily. They also produce white spores. With all of these similarities, there are a few things to check to try and help you distinguish the two. I will say that the Amanita are more white. However, just distinction in color like that can get you into trouble if that's all you're going off of. The Amanitas sometimes do have a bulbous end to their stem. Again, they don't have this all the time, but it is something that is fairly common. The Amanita are much more fragile mushrooms. If you try and peel apart the flesh, it's more of gonna mush. Also, if you were to take a matsutake firmly in your hand and give it a tight squeeze, it will stay firm. However, with the Amanita, usually it will squish or simply just break apart into pieces. The matsutake has that classic matsutake scent. If you don't know what that is, it smells a little bit spicy, sometimes a little bit cinnamon-like. There are some people that say it smells a little bit like dirty laundry. I know that's a broad spectrum, but just think about dirt spice. Like we've said before, dirt spice, it's Old Spice for hippies. Where the Amanita is not gonna have that scent. It is gonna be more of your just classic mushrooms and dirt smell. And I know both of these sound incredibly similar. And there are other mushrooms that can look like the matsutake. However, the Amanita ones are the ones that are toxic and can harm you. So please take care. It's a bit tricky for a beginner. This is a mushroom that you need to go through all of these steps to distinguish and maybe collect a few times before you decide to eat it for the first time.
All right, here's another shrimp, but here's also a lesson. Come on down. Matsutake are not the only mushrooms that make shrimps. There are other mushrooms, edible, delicious ones, and sometimes just boring old, ew, super moldy ones. These are Russula species here. So you just gotta check those shrimps. You gotta see what might be going on underneath, because you could hit the prize or you could get some moldy mold. These Mycena, they have been out like crazy this fall. Look at the fruiting bodies on this. This is so cool. I've never seen it so big. Usually I find them like this. Look at that. That's amazing. Old chanterelle? We'll leave you here, Mr. Slimy. Look at this guy peeking out. He's grown up from underneath that stick. Awesome, awesome. Okay, how do I get in here? And I want to make sure I'm not stepping on any others. It's like just full on still attached to the ground, so I'm just gonna have to be very, the cap is kind of like bent underneath there. Oh wow, it grew so funny because it was under there. So there's barely any part of the partial veil still attached, but this one would not fetch a very high price because it's like all funky shaped, but I don't care about that because this is going home with me. Oh, again, just can't get enough of that smell. We've done well. We have found some matsutake, and those environmental factors that I talked about. We found nutrient poor soil. We found Douglas fir and some grand fir and some ponderosa as well. We found the Allotropa virgata. And so all those factors come together so you can find the matsutake. Now, in Japan, of course, or if you live in another part of the world that produces matsutake, the environmental factors are going to be different. In Japan, it is the Japanese red pine.
And that is the tree that you're going to find in association with the official Tricholoma matsutake mushroom. I walked right past them. Oh, where? Where? Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Okay, I cannot claim this. I cannot claim this find. I gotta say, my brother, cameraman, following me, saw these and I walked right past them because I was way too focused on trying to look for something else. But there's like 4 of them in here, or more. All right. Oh wow, look. You can see white spore deposit all in there. So that's a good thing to mention. They're gonna have a white spore print, just so you know, white spores. Any BBs? Any other BBs? These are all pretty mature. Traditionally, when you learn about this mushroom, the matsutake, you're only gonna hear about the history in Japan. But there is actually a very deep, rich history of the harvesting and the eating of this mushroom within indigenous communities from British Columbia, down the Pacific Northwest, and down to California. And it's something that I don't know a whole lot about, and it's something that I don't think is shared a whole lot of. But there is a history there, this mushroom here on the North American continent, as well as over in Japan. You're finding all the good stuff today.
Say that again.
You're finding all the good stuff today.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh my gosh, you're just getting me to repeat it. You're finding all the good stuff today. Let me see. Where's it at? Behind
First,
you.
look at that tree. Isn't that tree beautiful?
This one? Yeah, it's incredible. Are you sure it's not that pile of lichen and you think it's a bear? Oh no, it's that. Oh, I see. That's beautiful. Sweet. Oh, that's your prize for the day. Great little patch of woods, wow. Oh, bear's head. So this is a Hericium species. This Hericium abietes specifically only grows in the Pacific Northwest. I got a video about it. Check it out. It's a nice fresh fella. Wow, this thing is weighty. It has been soaking in all that rain the past few days. There we go. Mom's gonna want this. Treasures. There we go. I'm actually gonna leave it. It's a little past its prime. Oh my gosh, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this tree. Holy cow. We're running out of time and yet I can't help myself. Oh, is that your classic icicle or what? Look at this bear's head. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so delicious too. Look at this. Old chicken of the woods. Look at this. It's when it's no longer bright orange and bright yellow, it turns white and chalky and falls off the tree. But good to take note of where you found it because oftentimes it will come back in other years. Even though these American Matsutake are choice edibles, the Matsutake that come from Japan fetch the highest price. The Japanese definitely say they have a better aroma to them, and the stronger the aroma, the more highly prized that mushroom is because it's like a sensory experience when you eat it. You get to use all 5 senses when the aroma is really strong. Also, imported Matsutake mushrooms, they will usually have kind of a fixed market price for the year. So, you know, a box of 5 has a set price and they kind of sell them around that range in general. But the Matsutake that are harvested from Japan, those ones go to auction and they can sell up to $100 a mushroom. Yikes. If all else fails, give up and go back to your car. Then you'll find the mushrooms you want. Hi.
We both walked over that spot.
We totally did, yep, and it's beautiful. There we go. So, how are you gonna eat this mushroom? If you've never had it before, keep it really simple. Don't overcook your matsutakes. Actually, you wanna, they're one mushroom that doesn't take a lot for it to be cooked. I highly, highly encourage you to look into Japanese cuisine and see ways that they use it, because they're the ones who've been doing this for centuries and have perfected many beautiful methods. Matsutake in rice, steaming the matsutake in rice, is a wonderful way to enjoy the flavor without overpowering it with a bunch of other flavors. Doing matsutake grilled, so look into that, grilling matsutake, wonderful. All right guys, thanks so much for coming along with me on this little matsutake hunt. There's a lot more that I could say, tons of history, tons of ID things and plants and whatever. Okay, do more research, learn about it. Zach's walking in a puddle right now because he's walking backwards as I talk. So, come and join us again. Oh yeah, and like and subscribe and leave a comment and share with your friends. And that's about it. All right, I gotta get home, process these mushrooms. I'll see you later.